We wanted to thank Commissioner Pitts for meeting with us today about our local animal shelter in Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County Animal Services. We discussed a number of concerns that we had, and we wanted to go over some documentation with him. So we thought that this would be an easy way to share with everyone. This is some of it, not all of it, but there's some good, clear examples that we've divided into departments. We're going to start with adoptions. Our local shelter charges $85 for an adoption fee for a dog. Here's Joey, a cute little boxer, and he's been housed and fed at the facility and bedded. And when you look, here's his entire medical history. He's got his microchip and his rabies and so on. He's been vetted. So it takes some work for our vet to do that. Here's his receipt when he's being processed. But when you look further into his receipt, what you find, instead of an $85 fee, is a $25 credit. And we became concerned when we kept finding examples like this. Here's another example. This is an employee, a former employee, who uses the address of the facility for their personal address, 860 Marietta Boulevard. And this dog, a little poodle, was adopted in 2009. And what you have is the initials of the adoption supervisor and no receipt at all. And when you look further into the receipt, what you find is that there hasn't been any money at all, so there was no adoption fee process for this dog. More concerning, when we look into the medical records, even though this little poodle was adopted in 2009, we have continuous vet services up until 2012, including rabies shots and other medicine and so on, which normally has a cost of $10 plus the other services. But again, this isn't being charged. So what we continue to find in adoptions is yet more examples of former employee. This particular employee, she actually surrendered a dog, yet when you look into her records, you find that she owns these 3 dogs, and she also owns these 4 dogs. What we found odd about that is 7 dogs is way over the limit of the 3 dogs per family in Fulton County. You would need a special permit. And yet she was again allowed to adopt this little chow, Yogi, who had other adopters who were interested in him. So it appears to be some type of a county ordinance violation, and it's all being processed in adoptions at Fulton County. Here's an adoptions contract. So the adoptions contract is pretty clear. When you adopt an animal, you're going to keep that animal. So we have to wonder what this person is doing with all of these 8 dogs. And we have received information that they are not at her location or her home. What we have here is a dog that was rescued with a rescue group in April of 2012. And in August of 2012, he got vetted at our facility. Now, rescue groups, they get a special price of $65 for full vetting. Yet this rescue group, again processed by the adoption supervisor, you don't find a receipt, and there was no charge. So we have continuous charges that we should have that we don't have. And what we also found was we had animals when they had information on a potential applicant. This one was an employee's friend or girlfriend. When we called to find out the information if they were going to adopt, sometimes adoptions fall through, we had someone put in writing and sign from a rescue group, and this is what she had to say. I was present during the conversation with Miss Rogers and heard Miss Rogers state she was not going to adopt and had not met the dog. We found that kind of odd because for an adopter to actually be put in the system, you actually have to meet the dog. So we became alarmed when we kept finding all these situations. Those are some of the examples in adoptions. Some people might consider that stealing or fraud, or we don't know what it is. We just wanted to bring it to the proper agency's attention. What we also found was in our kennel, employees spraying water from the outside. Now, we became alarmed and informed our director about these practices, but we continue to see it. This tends to aggravate the dogs, and they're available for the public, so we don't want the dogs aggravated, especially because they don't have rabies shots. So when the public comes in to see them, we don't want any of our employees doing this type of thing. What we have here is some emails to our director, and they say, I would love some training on how to get the dogs out. I only have a few kennel staff members that are willing to help me. And the volunteers go on to say, I noticed an animal control officer being excessively harsh. She was pulling Lonnie in a kennel with tempo. Lonnie refused to go. I saw her angrily pulling on Lonnie, and then she yanked hard on his leash, and he practically flew into the kennel. The dogs were all excited, and she was in the kennel. To calm them down, she smacked them. So we have this feedback, and we have other examples. Kennel staff definitely hits the dogs with leashes. Is this normal? So we did inform our director of these things, and we also informed him that our kennel wasn't being monitored, and what was happening was our community service workers were going in and not being monitored and making mistakes, giving